Hello everyone, I am Dr. Preeti Khulbe and today's topic of discussion is regulatory requirement for drug products. We have already discussed about the regulatory requirement in our previous many videos. This is the ninth video of the regulatory affair topic. Uh, in previous topic we have discussed about the regulatory requirement of different country along with the regulatory requirement need, regulatory requirement goal, etc. So if you want that detail, you can visit my previous video. This regulatory affair is in the third unit, or regulatory requirements is in the third unit of your syllabus in industrial pharmacy 2, which is there in the 7th sem in the PCI syllabus, B Farm 7 sem. Okay, so now we are starting with the topic. So regulatory requirements of all drug products. So when we talk about the regulatory requirement, so regulatory requirements is basically a requirements which are there, which is the, we can say, the statutory requirement or the legal requirement, which are there, in each and every country has, its own regulatory requirements. So if you want to market your product in certain companies, so before marketing you have to take the approval from the from that country's regulatory body. Okay, so previously also we have discussed a lot about this. So similar to the other countries, there is India also there are number of regulations are there, or number of regulatory agencies are there in India also, which gives the approval for the marketing of the drugs. Okay, so so we are starting with the topic. So first of all is the learning objective. So learning object of this unit is, learning object of this unit is, upon completion of this unit, this topic, the students will be able to learn about the consideration of regulatory affairs. That is why regulatory affair is important. Because the regulatory affair is important because the in each and every company the regulatory affair plays a very important role, from the starting of the product or from the R&D of the product to the product when reaches to the marketing, and after the post marketing also there is a role of regulatory affair department. Okay, so from R&D we can say to control the products quality, as well as to to approve the product for the marketing. The role of regulatory affair department is there. Similarly, when there is a product reaches to the market, so after the market reach of the market, after reaching to the market, then there are post marketing survey studies are also there, which are also known as the pharmacovigilance study. So there also the role of pharma regulatory affair is there. Okay, now know the legal issues related to the regulatory bodies. So all the legal issues which are there in the regulatory bodies, that is, we can see what are the country, what are the regulatory requirement guideline of particular country, and how we can submit the dossier to for the same is related to the legal issues which are related to the regulatory bodies. Similarly, we'll also learn about the general considerations related to the INDA and NDA, of INDA and NDA. What is the difference between the INDA and NDA? Investigational new drug application, what is this, and what are the requirements, or what are the requirement test requirements for the INDA? Why INDA is important? Similarly, why NDA is important, and what are the requirements, test requirements in the NGAs there? So all these things you will came to know after the completion of this complete unit. And here I want to tell you that most of the topic related to the this unit I have already covered. So you can visit my previous videos for all these things. So Just like for example INDA, if we talk, so INDA is there in the there, which is there in the companies, that if you want to perform the clinical trial, so after the preclinical trial, on the basis of this preclinical trial results and physical and chemical study results, you have to submit the application along with the documentation that contains the results of all preclinical studies. You have to submit it to the regulatory body. Then this regulatory body will then then give you the approval for doing the clinical trial. So before doing the clinical trial, we can say you have to go for the INDA study. And after the clinical trials, if you want to market your product, when you have completed with your three phases of clinical trials, so you can go for the go for the NDA, and after NDA approval, you can market your product, and then you can do your phase 4 marketing study, post marketing study, or phase 4 clinical trial. Yes. Now come to the next, that is the learning objective. So on successful completion of this unit, the students will be able to know about the role of a regulatory affair department. So as there are the multiple rules of regulatory affair departments are there. We have already discussed that the main role and responsibility of regulatory affair department is to control the safety and efficacy, or we can say the quality of the product. So how we can control it? Because due to by giving the proper technical advices as well as the regulatory advices to the manufacturer, we can control the safety and efficacy of the formulation. Other important responsibility or role of regulatory affair department is the we can say take the approval from the for the marketing of the product to particular country, is again a main role of regulatory affair department. Because if you want to market your product in two countries like Australia and America, so in both the countries regulatory authority is different. So in regulatory body is because the regulatory body is different, so there are difference in the guidelines also. So as per that country's guidelines, you have to prepare the documentation, you have to prepare your product. So that is what the rule of the regulatory affair department is there, right? Similarly, all about the regulatory bodies you will came to know in this unit, like what is the regulatory body of Australia, what is the body of Japan, what is the regulatory of US. Okay, all we have you will came to know after the completion of this unit. And here also I am telling you that as this is the ninth video of this series regulatory affairs, so we have already covered most of the part in this role responsibility. All about the regulatory bodies we have already covered. So in this video we will focus on the only on the Indian regulatory authority. Okay, also other than that, if you want to know in detail about the US FDA, about the TGA, about the MEA, so you can go and visit related to this. Okay, so starting with the drug approval process in India. So the regulatory scenario in India is changing very fast, and DCGI is coming up with the precise guidelines on each topic. The documentation for product registration in India has become at par with the US FDA, and seems to objective of DCGI, so that data generated in India is acceptable globally. Okay, so basically we can say that in India is, there is a regulatory body, there is, we can say, a, growing regulatory body, and there is a, very, the regulatory body is changing very fast, and they are coming up with the very precise guidelines for each and every topic. So if we talk about the regulatory body in India, so basically CDSCO is there, which is the regulatory body of India, and the head of CDCSCO is DCGI. So CDCSCO, that is Central Drug Standard Control Organization, and the head of this CDSCO is DCGI, that is Directorate Journal of Health of India, is the is DCGI. So sorry, the DCGI is Drug Controller General of India. So this is what the head of, we can say, the CDCSCO. So this is there are specific guidelines which are given by the DCGI, and the the documentation for product registration in India has a part with the USFDA, and it seems to objective of DCGI, so that the India is accepted by the global, Indian market is accepted for the global. That is because our guidelines are very strict, very very, we can say, clear about the quality, so that we are focusing on it. Basically we are working on it so that the data generated in India can be acceptable globally, can be acceptable by the USFDA, can be acceptable by the TGA, etc. Now, history of drug regulation in India. So, if we talk about the history, so back to the British rule, when the majority of drugs were imported, the history of drug regulation starts from there, when the all the mostly all the drugs are imported, and some drugs are there which are the we can say Ayurvedic drugs, which has no such regulations. Okay, so the Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, was created in 1949 to guide and manage the medical researches. Okay, so from before the 1949, all the drug regulations are related to the are related to the are we can say as per the British rules. Okay, so in 1949, ICMR was created, and it manages and it gives the whole duty to guide and manage the medical research. Okay, so the first Drug and Cosmetic Act came into existence in 1940. Okay, you know very well that as you are a pharmacy student, so you know that there is a major role of the Drug and Cosmetic Act in the drug regulation is there. So in 1940, the first Drug and Cosmetic Act was passed, and the rules of drug and cosmetic rules are created or are amended from 1945. Okay, so amendment established the CDSCO and DCGI. Okay, so in 1945 also the CDSCO and DCGI is created, established, or we can say. Okay, now the a specific sub drugs and cosmetic act was developed and called the Schedule Y to regulate the clinical research conduct. Okay, so as we discussed that in 1949, the ICMR has the duty to guide and manage the medical research. So in 19 in the in the development of the Drug and Cosmetic Act, there is a Schedule Y is created which regulates all the clinical research conducted. So in Schedule Y, all the research, how you can conduct your clinical research, so all the data related to this are, all the guidelines related to this are given in Schedule Y. The Department of Biotechnology was created in 1986 to facilitate various aspects of biotechnology. Okay, so in this, the DBT is there. DBT is started in 1986. Okay, so at the start only the ICMR and drug and cosmetic rules are there, but after that in 1986 DBT has started. This is very late actually. It is started approx 40-year gap is there. Okay, so ICMR issued the ethical guidelines for biomedical research on human subjects in 2000. Okay, so clinical trial when we talk, so it is in the human subjects, so ICMR issued ethical guidelines related to the human subjects clinical trial in the human subject in the year 2000, and the CDSCO released the Indian Good Clinical Practices Guideline in 2001. Together, these agencies again assist the licensing authority in issuing the final marketing approval for products. Okay, so there is important contribution of ICMR in the human research or human subjects, research in the human subject or clinical practices. The 2000 and 2001 year are important. Now the if we talk about the regulatory authorities or the members of regulatory authorities, so here is a chart given which shows the members of the regulatory authority. So if we talk about the members, so here is the Ministry of Health is there, and Ministry of Health, other than that Ministry of Health, there are other three ministries are also there. Like first one is Ministry of Science and Technology, second is Ministry of Environment, and third one is Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizers. Okay, so along with not only the Ministry of Health is related to the regulatory authority, related to the healthcare, we can say. So in this, not only the Ministry of Health is there, but along with this Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Environment, and Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizers are also there. Okay, so in Ministry of Health, there is a health secretary is there. After the health secretary, there is a DGHS. DGHS represents the Director General of Health Services. So Ministry of Health के बाद में there is a health secretary. In health secretary, after the health secretary, there is a DGHS, that is Director General of Health Services. Then DCGI, that is Drug Controller General of India, and after that there is a CDL and CDTL, Government Drug Testing Laboratory की जो Central Drug Laboratory or Central Drug Testing Laboratory heads are there. Okay, so all are there which are related, all are the members of the regulatory authority which are related to the Ministry of Health. Similarly, Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer, NAPA is there, that is NPPA. So National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. Okay, and it is also related, also it decides basically the pricing regulations. So because if we are talking about the marketing of any formulation, so obviously the pricing is a very important factor. So for pricing, the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, that is NAPA, is there, which decides all the pricing regulations. Okay, similarly the Ministry of Science and Technology is there, which has the department, that is DBT department is there, that is Department of Biotechnology is there in Ministry of Science and Technology. It is also a part of Indian Regulatory Authority. Similarly, Ministry of Environment, there is additional secretary is there, and in this the department, the committee which is there, this is known as JACA, that is Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. Okay, so if you are doing certain research related to the biotechnological field or really related to the genetic engineering, so this is related to the this is approved, or the guidelines of this are given by the JICA, that is Genetic Engineering Approval Committee. Okay, so next is it is and all it related to the State Drug Regulatory Authority, that is FDA. So State Drug Regulatory Authorities, FDA, and all the regulatory authorities are related to this. Okay, so here we can say the four ministries are there, in which the major is the Ministry of Health, other than that Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizers, then Ministry of Science and Technology, then Ministry of Environment. Now, new drug application forms and rules. So if we talk about the new drug application forms and rules, so here So here we can say there are number of forms along with the form number are given, and the purpose of these forms are explained here. So these all are related to the new drug applications. So form 44 is there. The application, the purpose of form 44 is application for permission to import or manufacture a new drug or to begin a new clinical trial. Okay, so if you want to manufacture and import any new drug or to begin a new clinical trial, so you have to submit form 44. Okay, similarly 122A, form number 122A is there. In this, the application for permission to import a new drug is there. So if you want to import a new drug, so you have to file for the form 44 also. You have to go for the form 122A also. Okay, similarly in 122B there is a approval for application for the approval to import a new drug. Okay, if you want to take a permission, you have to go for the form 44 as well as 122A. But if you are given the application for the approval, so you have to file for the 122B form. Next is 122D. In one form 122D, permission to import or manufacture the fixed dose combinations are here. So if you want to import, if you want to manufacture the fixed dose combination, so you have to give for the 122D. 122DA, so application for the permission or to conduct a clinical trial for new drug or investigational new drug. So 122DA you have to file. So basically if you want to conduct a clinical trial for new drug, so 122DA you have to file. Similar to that, 122DA is there, which has in this the all the definitions related to clinical trials are given. That is, in which case you can file for the 122DA. It is given in the 122DAA. Okay, similarly 122DB is there. In this, the suspension or cancellation of permission or approval. So in case of अगर आपका क्या है, in case of cancellation of the permission of approval अगर हो गया है, so the guidelines related to this are given, the rules related to this are given in 122. Okay, so here you can see the number of forms and rules are given, like form 44, 122A, 122B, 122D, 122A, 122A, 122DP. So all are related to the new drug application, or we can say the import or manufacture or the clinical trial of new drug. Okay, so as per your need, you can visit the rules and you can file for the form. Now, at the central level, DCGI under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Okay, now here one thing is there that we have discussed that there is a DCGI, there is a CDSU, but all the departments of CDCI, that is CDCSU or the DCGI, so all our work under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, that is MHFW. Okay, and approves the drug or medical devices for marketing. Okay, the manufacturing licenses are approved at the state level by state drug controller authorities. Monitoring is also performed by state agencies in coordination with the CDCSCO. Okay, CDSCO basically. So monitoring is also performed by the state agency in coordination with the CDSCO. So if you want to take approval from the manufacturing license, so all the state controlling authorities there. Now manufacturing, importing or conducting a clinical trial requires permission from the licensing authority through a form 44 application. Okay, so as we have already discussed that if you want to manufacture, if you want to product import, if you want to conduct any clinical trial, so you should require a permission, and it is permission from the licensing authority, and it is for this you have to file for the form 44 application you have to give. The application follows international submission requirements of a common technical document, that is CTD, and has the five module. Okay, so in form 44, which we have discussed, that form 44 is there. So in form 44 there is a CTD is there, and it has five modules, and CTD represents the common technical documents, and this common technical document is basically the international submission requirement. Okay, so if the question is there, what is CTD? So you have to write that CTD is the international submission requirements, and it has five modules. Now here the CTD triangle is given. So what is the CTD? What is the triangle of CTD? Is you know given. So in CTD there is a triangle is there in which five modules are there. So module 1, which is not a part of the CTD, but it includes in the CTD. Okay, here we can say it is includes in the CTD, but it is not a part of the CTD, and the rest module 2 say 5 is a part of CTD. Okay, so module 1 is the regional admin information is there in the module 1, so that's why it is not a part of it, but it counts on it. Okay, so next is module 2. In module 2, five things are there, like quality overall summary is there in the CTD. Other than that, non-clinical overview, non-clinical summary, clinical overview, and clinical summary. So all five things are there, that is quality overview summary, non-clinical overview, clinical overview, and non-clinical summary and clinical summary. So all these five things are related to the module 2 of CTD. Okay, now if we talk about the module 3, so modules in module 3, all the things related to the quality are there. Okay, how to maintain, वैसे CTD is all about the quality, but how specifically in the quality, module 3 is dedicated. Similarly, in module 4, non-clinical study reports, and module 5, clinical study reports are to be submitted. Okay, so here the common technical document has, so all the things you should include. So in this, module 3 has the quality, module 4 has the non-clinical study report, module 5 has the clinical study report you have to submit. Okay, other than that, in module 2, quality overall summary, non-clinical overview, clinical overview, non-clinical summary, clinical summary are given, and it is a part of CTT. But the module 1, that is regional admin information, so because it is a regional admin information, you have to incorporate in the document, but it is not, we can say, exactly the part of CTD. So yeah, so five modules are there, 1 2 3 4 5. Now, Form 44 require information as described in the Schedule Y of the Drug and Cosmetic Act. You know that Drug and Cosmetic Act Schedule Y is dedicated to the clinical trial. So Form 44 require all the information which is described in the Schedule Y of the Drug and Cosmetic Act. Similarly, the clinical trial must be conducted in accordance with the ethical principles. The Act has a special provision or Rule 122A to accept the international trial data or other information of the to allow the import and to waive the clinical trial requirements in the interest of public health. A clinical trial may also be waived for drugs that are approved and has been approved in other countries for many years. Now, Schedule Y. If we talk about Schedule Y, so requirements and guidelines to import and to manufacture of new drug for sale or to undertake the clinical trial. So basically, when we talk about the Schedule Y, so the thing which comes in our mind, or which should come in our mind, is that the Schedule Y is all about or is related to the clinical trial. So in Schedule Y, all the requirements and guidelines to import or manufacture of new drugs for sale as well as to undertake the clinical trials are given in the Schedule Y. Similarly, it has outlined extensive study criteria in line with the globally accepted formats such as ICH and US FDA guidelines. So these study which you are performing for the clinical trial should be as per the format accepted globally, that is ICH or US FDA guideline. You know that these are some such guidelines which are accepted globally. So it can be referred to the rules. We have discussed different rules also, but in this the specific rules which are there is the section 122 is the major part of this. So in this rules 122A B, 122A, 122B, 122D, 122DA, 122DAA, 122E. These rules are there, and we have already discussed these rules in our previous slides. Now, purpose of Schedule Y. Why the Schedule Y is, we are doing this. We are studying the Schedule Y to frame guidelines to conduct the clinical research. We give the Schedule Y. We study the Schedule Y. Control and regulations for new drugs. The Schedule Y is important. CDSCO formulated GCP, good clinical practices under Schedule Y in 2005. Okay, so similarly, as the GMP is there, that is good manufacturing practices, which is there on which we have to follow for the manufacturing, to control the quality of the product. Similarly, GLP is there. We used to follow the GLP, that is good laboratory practices to maintain the quality during the laboratory testing. Similarly, GCP's guidelines or good clinical practices are the guidelines which are formulated by the CDSCO, that is Central Drug Standard Control Organization, in the year 2005. This GCP is formulated under the under the Schedule Y for the maintaining the quality, or for doing the proper maintaining the, we can say, the quality of the clinical trial. So GCP we should follow. Okay, so now next is the flow chart of the regulatory requirement of new drug application in India. So NDA की क्या regulatory requirement है in India, this new drug application के लिए, it is given in the flow chart. So here the first is applicant has to file for the IND application filing to the CDSCO headquarters. Okay, and along with this, applicant also submit the application to ethical committee, and report of ethical committee, if possible, it comes within the 12 week. Okay, so both applicant, who's the applicant, so applicant has to file both the application simultaneously. ethical committee की हम डाल दें, और इधर वो आपका क्या कर सकता है, INDA application फाइल कर सकता है. Now examination by new drug division. So after the INDA has submitted the application to the CDSCO headquarters, it is examined by the new drug division. Okay, and there is a specific division for the new drug in CDSCO. So this application will given to the that department. Then detailed review by the INDA committee. INDA committee done the detailed review related to the drugs, and then it will recommend it to the DCGI. Okay, so now DCGI is the IN, then it approved the IND, and they can start the clinical trial only if they have the approval of clinical ethical committee. Okay, so if you are just you just have the IND application approval, but you don't have the ethical committee approval, so you cannot perform the clinical trial. So to perform the clinical trial, you should have both the things, that is approval of IND as well as approval from the ethical committee. Okay, now clinical trial started, and the application for new drug registration. Then after that, NDA registration is presented to the DCSCO. Okay, then it is reviewed by the DCGI, and if it is complete, license is granted. If it is not complete, then refuse the license. Okay, so this is the whole process of NDA. Okay, yeah. Now Form 44, here the details related to Form 44 are given. So here you can see the form 44, and it is written there: application for grant of permission to import, manufacture a new drug or to undertake clinical trial. Form 44 IV of MS hereby apply for the grant of permission for import of and or clinical trials, or for approval to manufacture a new drug or fixed dose combinations, or subsequent permission for already approved a new drug. A necessary information data is given below. Okay, so all the necessary data here, you can see the particulars of new drug, name of new drug, doses form, test specification, active and active ingredients, pharmacological classification of drug, indications for each for which proposed to be used. So all are given here, you can see. Now, principal differences between US and India. So there are, differences between the US and Indian regulatory agencies. So agency in US, the agency is USFDA. In India, agency is DCGI. Application in US, ANDA and NDA is there. In India, MA is there. Debarment is, yes, in US debarment is there, but in India no debarment is there. Similarly, the approval time is approximately 18 months in US, and here in India 12 to 18 months time is there. Fees for the NDA in India is under the, in US is under the $2 million for NDA, and approx the $51,520 for ANDA application, where in India it is 50,000 only. So yeah, so these are the references. So for references, you can directly Google out the things, what is regulatory body, how the Indian regulatory body works, all related to this. So in today's video we have discussed about basically the drug approval process in India. So important things you should be remember, that what are the members, what are the regulatory authority, what are the different forms related to this, what is the CTD, common technical document, how many modules are there in the CTD, when the schedule Y is started, and what is there in the schedule Y, how the regulatory requirement of NDA in India works, we can say. Okay, and here the form 44, why the form 44 is used, we can say form 44 is used to grant the permission for the, import or manufacture, or the, if you want to perform the clinical trial, then for the new drugs. Similarly, the difference between the US and India are given. So these are the reference for references. You can also cite for the books. You can also cite for to the different journals are there for recent advances in the guidelines, और कौन से ऐसे drugs हैं जो recently जिनको पता मिला है. You can visit directly to the internet. There are multiple sites, and you can also go for the DCGI site for the detail. Now some questions I have put here for the revision. So these questions are actually the mixed questions, and maybe some questions are from these slides and some questions are from previous slides. Okay, so if you want any if you have any confusion related to the answers, so you can visit my previous videos for the answers, and also this video will also. Okay, so yeah. First is, on an average, how many years are required for a new drug development? Is it 15 to 20 years, or 5 to 10 years, 1 to 2 years, 10 to 20 years? So the answer is A, that is 15 to 20 years. That is, we can say on an average, the new drug approval, new drug development take, new drug development take about 15 to 20 years for the approval. Yeah, answer A is there. Second is, Which is the main role of regulatory affair? First is promotion of new drug product. Second is taking part in innovation of the formulation. Third is safety and efficacy of the products as per regulation laid down by the government. Next is market the new product. So the answer C is correct. That is safety and efficacy of the products as per regulations laid down by the government. So that is, we can say, the main role of regulatory affairs. There are multiple roles of regulatory affairs we have discussed, but the main role, we talk about the main role. So main role is main role is to safety and efficacy of the drug product as per the regulation and laid down by the government. So answer C is correct. Third is includes Korea, Lebanon, Pei or Gulf. So answer A is correct. That is ASIA includes the Korea. Next is ASEAN. Asian is related to Association of some East Asian nations, Association of South East Asian nations, Association of some early Asian nations, Agreement of Southeast Asian nations. So you can see here that all are very similar, but the right answer of Asian is the B, that is Asian is related to Association of Southeast Asian nations. Next is, which is not true about regulatory affairs? First is, it means government affairs. Second, regulatory affairs is a profession which has developed from the desire of governments to protect public health. C. It takes part in marketing, distribution and distribution capability. Next is regulatory affair is a profession within the healthcare industry. So answer C is correct. That is the not, which is not true about regulatory affair, that it is not true that regulatory affair takes part in the marketing, distribution and distribution capability. So marketing approval is a role of regulatory affair, but marketing distribution is not. Now next is, what is CPSC in terms of regulatory affair? So is it Consumer Product Safety Commission, Cons- Customer Product Safety Commission, Consumer Process Safety Condition, Consumer Process Safety Commission? So the answer is correct, that is CPSC is related to Consumer Product Safety Commission. Answer is correct. Next is, what is FTC in terms of regulatory affair related to advertising? Federal Trade Commission, Food Trade Commission, Food Stars Commission, Former Trade Commission. So that is A is the answer is correct. That is Federal Trade Commission. So FTC in terms of regulatory affairs is related to the Federal Trade Commission. FTC A is the correct answer. Member states Asian includes Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, all of the above or all mentioned. So answer D is correct. That is all mentioned. That is Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia. All are the members of member states of Asian. Now, Asian harmonization is related to ACTD, ACTR, FDA, all mentioned. So, Asian harmonization includes FDA as well as ACTD and ACTR. So, that is answer D is correct. That is all mentioned. Now next is ACTD. ACTD is a technical dossier, a technical content, a technical doses or technical guideline. So ACTD is basically a technical dossier, that is it is a set of documents we can say. Okay, so right answer is A. So ACTD is a technical document, technical dossier, sorry. So yeah, thank you so much. So this is all about this topic. So in this video, we have discussed about in detail related to the regulatory requirement in India, and if you want in detail related to the what is regulatory affair means, what is the basic of regulatory affairs, what are the important guidelines which are there in the regulatory affairs, or the roles and responsibility of regulatory affair department, so you can visit my previous videos. Also in previous videos I have explained in detail about the regulatory body of Asia, regulatory body of Australia, US, UK, and Japan, so South Africa. So I have already covered all the related topics, so you can visit my previous videos also. So thanks for watching.